Hey guys, welcome back to Money Matters. I know that I've been gone for a while, but I'm back now and I'm getting started with a Q&A. So I posted on Twitter and Instagram for you guys, viewers, whoever reads my website, to actually send me any kind of questions that you have when it comes to either personal or small business finances. So I didn't get that many questions, so I am going to go through the questions that I got. I think it's between like 5 and 7. So let's just jump right in. So the first question is, should you live off of your credit card and use your income to pay the bill, especially if you make more money than your credit limit? So one, I would never suggest for you to live off of your credit card. Now, what I would suggest is, if you are responsible with credit or you are trying to get there, you do want to use your card responsibly, because it is a tool to help build your credit, and then also it puts things in place for your future expenses or purchases that you may want to get, such as like a home or a car, even sometimes apartments, jobs. Sometimes they check your credit if they're giving you corporate cards. So while you don't want to live off of your credit card, you do want to use it responsibly so that you are consistently building credit. So what I would suggest is using your credit card for something that's small, but that you have to pay on a consistent basis. Examples of those things include like maybe your gas if you drive, if you, let's say, buy groceries monthly, bi-weekly, however frequent, you can use your credit card for something like that. Maybe use your credit card to pay your cell phone bill. But at the end of the month or at the end of the cycle, you want to make sure that you're paying that off to show that you're using your credit responsibly, you're paying on time, and you're also not overusing the credit. So the second question is, what is a good percentage of saving? So this question is really relative because it really depends on your situation, because I could say you should save 10% of your income, but that may not be feasible for you. The question was actually two parts, and it also mentioned not only how much of their income should they save, but also should they break it down into saving buckets. So the first thing, yes, you should definitely be saving a percentage of your income. If possible, you want to at least start with 10% of what you're making. Now, how you decide to put that away or save it may be up to you, but I like to do it according to how often I get paid on a monthly basis. So if I get paid twice a month, then each check, there is a percentage that goes into my savings account. So if you're starting from zero or you find it hard to save, a good thing to put into practice is to tie it to a goal. So let's say you have no emergency savings or that you have little, then what you want to do is set a goal for that. So let's say you have $500 in your account, but let's say you want your emergency savings to be 6 months of your expenses, and that equates to $5,000. So $4,500 is going to be your goal because you already have $500 in your saving account. So how do you save that? Let's use the same example. So you're getting paid twice a month and you know that you want to save the $5,000 in 8 months. So what you want to do is break down how many checks are you getting over the course of 8 months. You're getting 16 because you're getting 2 checks a month. So you want to take that $4,500 and you want to divide it by the 16, and whatever you get, that's the amount that you have to put away each paycheck. And of course, as I always say, you want to automate that amount. You don't even want that amount touching your account. So immediately when you get paid, you want that amount going directly to your savings account, which shouldn't be linked to your normal checking. So I know that was a bit much in the sense of it didn't give an exact answer of what percent you should save, because really, like I said, it really does depend. But if you are not saving at least 10%, that is a good place to start. And then as you start to make more money, you increase the amount that you're putting away. But a lot of it depends on your goals, and it depends on what are you saving for? Is it retirement? Is it travel? You know, the amount really depends on the why. The second part of that question is, should you have different buckets for savings? And yes, you should. So I use myself as an example. I have 2 retirement accounts, which are technically savings because it's saving for my future. Then I also have a down payment account, which I save for the home that I will eventually purchase. And then lastly, I also have a travel fund and a cushion. And the cushion is, I guess you could say, like my emergency savings. And the travel fund is because I at least travel once a year. I'm making sure that I'm consistently putting money away. So if I have to grab a flight or book the hotel, I'm not using funds that weren't meant for travel, and I'm not overextending myself. I'm using the funds that was there for that specific thing. Now, let's say I didn't have it to save for the travel fund, and I know, well, this year, guess what? I can't travel because I'm not going to take the money out of my cushion or out of the down payment of for my home. That would make no sense. You want to make sure that you are sticking to saving for the goals that you set, and you want to make sure that you aren't dipping in the accounts or moving money around if it's not absolutely necessary. So the third question is, what are some strategies to increase income? Because it's hard for those who work in the education, nonprofit, and social services field. Now, this is really a jam-packed question because there are a few different avenues that you can take. First, I want to say that it's very unfortunate that there are certain careers which take a lot of work and a lot of heart and a lot of love, but unfortunately, they just don't pay. And I definitely think that like the nonprofit sector, education, and social services, those fall right into that bucket. They tend to be jobs that you do because you love them and you like giving back and you like helping, but a lot of times the amount of work and effort that you put into that job, it does not translate well as far as what you're paid. So the first thing is you have to know the career field that you chose. Some of them do have income caps. So it's like no matter how much schooling you have, whether you had a bachelor's and then you went and got a master's, that there is just a certain amount of money that if you stay in these kind of fields, you will not make. Now, there are, special cases. So I'm not speaking and saying that, oh, if you stay in education, you'll never make six figures. That's not it. But if you are struggling and you're feeling like you need to make more income, I'm just saying that you need to understand the field that you're in and whether, even making six figures is an option. And let's say it is. Can you get there in 2 years versus 10? Like, what is the longevity and the growth like? The second thing is, within career fields, there are different avenues that you can go. So I'm going to use education for an example. So in education, you could be an assistant teacher. You could be an actual teacher with your own classroom. You can be a dean. You can be a principal, or you can work in the administration side. You can work for the Department of Education. Depending on your role within that field, also determines how much you're paid. So let's say, for an example, you chose to be an assistant teacher. So of course, a regular teacher is going to make more money than you. So you need to say to yourself, is this what I want to do long term? Is this where I see myself growing? Then maybe I need to figure out what I need to do to become a teacher so that I can make that teacher salary. Same goes for a teacher who may be considering becoming a dean or a principal. You have to know, or you have to think and assess where it is that you want your career to go. And with that growth and that movement, what does the income look like for each one of those steps? So another strategy, which is easier said than done, is to choose a different career field. I know friends who have gone into social services, and when they got there, they were like, this is not for me. The type of money that I'm being paid for, the type of work that I'm putting in, I don't love it enough. But they were able to be honest with themselves and say, this is something that they don't want to do. And then they started to see, well, I have this bachelor's in social services. What else can I do with that degree? What other type of jobs match what it is that I have experience in, or what it is that I have skills in? Because they went to school, they got their degree in it. But when they come out and let's say they land a job, there are a few different ways that they can go. One of them could be to get their certified internal auditor designation. Another one is the CPA, which is the public designation. Or like me, I went and got certified in anti-money laundering and terrorist financing, and now I'm also working towards the internal auditor designation. So it really depends, but I know that even if I never went back to school, adding those designations or those skill sets can now put me in a position to ask for more money, to take on positions that I maybe can't take on now because I don't have the experience or the skill set. It's all about truly learning how to position yourself and then work the system. And a lot of times I find that we don't want to do the research or the work to see what it will take for us to propel into the next step or the next level. And before you can get there, that's what you have to do. There's really no shortcuts. So you have to do the work in order to get to the position that you want. So back to the career changing strategy. After you decided that, you know what, this is really something that you want to go through with, there are a few different things that you can do to change careers. The good thing is that we live in such a different time right now where just because you have a degree in, let's say, accounting doesn't mean you can't go and be a photographer. Now, I'm just grabbing out of thin air, of course, but it's a little bit easier to get into different industries, of course, depending on what it is. You know, if it's something that you can create an online portfolio for or be able to showcase, you know, that you can do the job. A lot of times what your experience is in or what your degree is in will not play a factor as to whether you'll be able to break into another industry. But once again, you have to make sure that whatever that new industry is, you want to take the time out to research it and understand what is it that they're looking for. And let's say you're a mid-level accountant, you have to understand that when you change careers, you may not be able to go into the new industry mid-level. You may have to start at entry level because technically you don't have the experience. So you have to weigh the good and the bad and determine whether that is something that you want to do. Some people are okay with taking a pay cut to know that in the long run, they'll be making more money than they would have made in the current industry that they're in. The other strategy, which is probably obvious, is to create your own thing, whether it be on the side or to eventually become an entrepreneur where you run your own business. So let's just say that for you, you are in education or social services and you're like, listen, I have all of these skills. I don't necessarily want to leave my industry, but I do want to make some money. How can you take the skills that you have now and apply it to something on the side? Can you become an adjunct professor, you know, on the weekends and do a Saturday class at a community college? Can you do some kind of consultant? Can you pick up a part-time? You have to be creative, and it does take some thought. And I'll be honest, a lot of these things I have thought about and I've racked my brain, and you know, I've decided that, you know, I love the degree that I got. I love the industry that I'm in. While sometimes the jobs that are offered may not be something that I love, I know, okay, now I know what I don't want, and I know that when I move on, these are the type of things that I do want. I know when I walk out that door and I'm going to the next place, this is the type of income I want, and because I want this income, I have to have X, Y, Z. And because I have those things, I can ask for that and be expected to be paid that. So on to the next question. I think we have one more after this. So the question was, if your title is one thing, but the things that you're good at are multiple things, and like the one title that you have doesn't necessarily translate to all of those things that you're good at, how do you determine your value? So I don't know if this person is an entrepreneur or if this person is in a traditional job setting. So for the sake of this question, I'm going to assume that they work in a traditional job setting. And the one thing I'll say is, when you have multiple talents, multiple things that you're good at, you should have different versions of your resume. So let's just say, for an example, as an accountant, I have experience in public accounting, but I also have experience in internal, just regular internal accounting, but also with a specialization in AML, which is anti-money laundering. So I may, if I'm applying for a compliance job, the way that I present my experience on my resume for the compliance job is not going to be the same way. It's not going to be the same way that I present my experience if I were to be going for, let's say, a financial auditor position, because technically they're really two different type of jobs. One is very procedure and regulation based, and the other one is very numbers based. So I have to make sure, depending on what I'm applying for, that the type of skills and experiences that I'm highlighting in my resume, it speaks to that specific job. So in this case, you're going to have to determine your value based on, one, the type of job you're applying for, and then the type of skills and experiences that you have that support that position. So I can probably ask for more money for the AML compliance job, whereas if I went to the financial auditor job, I may not be able to ask for as much because my expertise has grown in this area versus this one. So it may sound lame or it may seem like a waste of time, but what you should do is get a sheet of paper. And I recommend getting a sheet of paper because sometimes you need to really physically write things down. Write down the things that you're good at and what is it that makes you good at those things, and then what are the skills and the experiences that you have in those particular type of jobs that you can add value to that company or that position that you will eventually apply for. You know, as part of determining your worth, you always want to make sure that you can let whoever it is, the employer or the recruiter, know why it is that you think that you can ask for $100,000. Is there anything that you can show me to support these numbers that you're asking for? So with that, you want to also look into some resources so that you can start putting some numbers to these things. So you have sites like Glassdoor, which actually will tell you, if the person is this level and this position, junior vice president, they make between this amount. Is that comparable to you? Do you fit in that category? You can also use LinkedIn. You can look up people in their titles and see what kind of experience they're listing for those different type of titles. Do you fit in there? It takes a lot of research, but it's worth it because we already know women tend to be paid less than men. So you want to make sure that you can get every coin that's owed to you. So the last question comes from a grad student who has about $50K in student loans, which are in deferment because she's still in school. And she was asking whether or not she should be paying or putting any kind of money toward her loans because she's still in school. And there may be some kind of grants that she will qualify for later that she can add to her student loan balance. Honestly, I really only have one answer to this, and that's just pay what you can. If you can currently make payments towards your student loans that are in deferment, make those payments. Even though you may get grants later, first of all, the first thing is that you may. May is the key word. So there's a possibility that you may not, which will mean that you missed an opportunity to help put money towards your principal and pay down your loan because you were banking on something that wasn't even sure. Now, if you can't afford it, of course, you don't want to overextend yourself because you are still in school. But the way the question was framed, to my understanding, it was that she could afford to put something. Listen, every little bit counts. So if you can put something, put it. And if you get a grant later on, at least you know that you took care of part of that balance and that the bill is just a little bit lighter. So that was it for all of the questions that I received. If you'd like to submit a question to be answered in the next video, you can send your question to bit.ly/askyLF. I'll put it across the screen so you know how to spell it. Also, if you have any kind of unique money story or something that you would like to share, you can also submit a story on the website. I'll also include a link to that across the screen as well. And that is it, you guys. I'm glad to be back making videos. If you have any kind of questions, comments, concerns, you can always leave them in the comment box below. Be sure to like this video, subscribe, and share. And I will see you guys next week.